This
Got in a little
conference
early.
will now be recorded.
I just hit the record button, so
Gotcha.
there we go. So what is good? What is good? You say just to the grind, huh?
Yeah, just been my job's pretty easy. We just sold our house
Oh, congrats.
last week. Appreciate it. So we're in a lot of transition stuff going on, and then the radio stuff with KU football has been awesome. It's been super nice to be that close to the game again. Just getting to know the kids a little bit, and that's been awesome.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Absolutely.
And so I kind of sent you a little format of how things kind of pan out, and I guess I'm just go ahead and kind of introduce myself to hopefully the current student athletes that are watching this. Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Pat Brown. I'm a financial advisor here in Lawrence, Kansas, with Edmund Duncan Investment Advisors, and I played football for University of Kansas a number of years back. Played outside linebacker. It's always been a passion of mine to work with student athletes as far as financial literacy. And so started doing this series of interviews with former student athletes in hopes to help current student athletes look at what they did, success, failures, and maybe gain some information and help develop those habits to help them make better informed decisions as far as financial matters are concerned. So as you guys can probably tell already, who my first guest here is here. I just want to go ahead and read because I did a little cyber stalking of Brandon, and just so the guys know who they're talking with, dealing with. So Brandon McAnderson was a 5-year member of the KU football team from 2003 to 07. Was named a team captain for the 2008 Orange Bowl championship season. He was tied for the fourth in Kansas record books for career rushing touchdowns with 23, and is a second in single season rushing touchdowns with 16. One of McAnderson's most memorable performances as in a Kansas uniform was against Nebraska in 2007, when he set a then single game record with 4 touchdowns en route to a 76-39 victory over the Huskers. I was at that game. That was awesome. McAnderson helped lead Kansas to 11-1 season in 2007 with a victory in the 2008 Orange Bowl, where he led KU rushing attack with 15 attempts for 75 yards in the game. He was named to the All Big 12 second team by Big 12 coaches in 2007 as a running back, and an All Big 12 second team honoree in 2006 as a fullback. Following McAnderson's time in Kansas, he participated in the 2008 East-West Shrine Bowl and signed as a free agent with the St. Louis Rams following the 2008 NFL Draft. Welcome, Brandon McAnderson.
Glad to be here.
That's an awesome career, man. Congrats.
Thank you.
And so I guess I just really want to kind of start off, and I've been doing this with the other interviews as well, just kind of read what the definition is of financial literacy, because I think a lot of, in my mind, a lot of current student athletes kind of have this connotation that it has a negative connotation to it as far as, literacy being dumb or something like that. And so the definition of financial literacy is the possession of a set of skills and knowledge that allows an individual to make informed and effective decisions with all their financial resources. And so I liken that to what, as a student athlete, as we're already doing, we have habits, we have this repetition that we do, and that's what it's all about. It's repetition. And so I just want these athletes to understand that it's no different than what they do on a day-to-day basis. And so if you can kind of talk a little bit about, I guess, your thoughts on money when you first came to university, your freshman, maybe sophomore year, just kind of what your thought pattern was. Was it new to you? Did someone ever talk to you about that stuff?
Yeah, so it was very new to me, being on my own. And to be honest with you, I mean, I'm from Lawrence, so it wasn't as if I went very far to go to college. And I still really struggled with it. My dad was one of those people that ultimately he was like, you play football, I'll take care of the rest. You don't have to get a job. You go to school, get good grades, and play football, I'll take care of the rest. So I had a summer job where I worked up on campus cleaning sorority houses. So I would get like $225 a week, and I would just blow it. I just buy stuff. It was nothing where I was playing anything, and that was my summer gig. And then when I got to KU, I had the scholarship check. I was on campus with my $400, but I had no understanding of budgets. I had no understanding of an effective way to spend that money, and I had no real understanding of what to do with it. And that was even without bills.
Oh, wow. Okay. So as time went on throughout your college career, did that ever change? Did anyone ever, I mean, was there any coursework? Was there anything that you were like, yeah, that this whole, blowing money thing is not working? Or is it just, like I said, the mindset and just, hey, let me get that money and I can just go kind of do what I want to do with it?
Yeah, so the universe kind of was my trial and error teacher because
Right.
ultimately I didn't have a phone bill. I had a car, but I didn't pay insurance. So I think my pops paid insurance on it. It was a cheap car, $2,500 car. So I didn't have car payment. I had a phone, but I didn't make the phone payment. Didn't have insurance or anything like that. So, I was home and my parents were taking care of me. And I think what changed me was my teammate. I met a teammate from Detroit. And this guy never had a bed growing up and, was always in transit and, always trying to scrape dollars together to send home. And I think what he taught me about was accountability. He taught me to be accountable for myself in my life, period. And that translated to my finances. I remember 2 weeks in to, I think maybe October. I think it was my second year of college. It was my first year playing. I redshirted my first year. So after the game, I wanted to go out and be seen. Hey, I'm on the team. I'm playing. It's October. It's about to be Halloween.
Right.
And I go out and I spend all my money. And then it's like November 7th, and I have no money. So this is when I was with U.S. Bank because I think that's where our checks came from. And this is where they were just hammering people with overdraft fees. So I checked my account on like November 9th, and I'm like negative 300. Luckily for me, we didn't have bills, but they didn't have the unlimited eating at this time. So we got 2 meals a day, 5 days a week. So we had to figure it out on the weekends, and we had to figure out one of the meals in a week. And I'm looking at my finances like, I'm minus how much? Did I really need to go this hard at the club, or to go to the post club, go to Perkins and spend all my money?
Perkins,
and I go to my dad's house and I'm just crying. Like, man, I don't have any money, Dad. And he's like, you know what? I'll let you borrow some money, man, but you need to get your stuff together. And I was lucky enough to have both parents and have that and be close to home. But my buddy from Detroit was like, man, how long do you think your parents are going to live? Like, how long are you going to live off of them? Like, when are you going to make some changes about how you're thinking about these things? And not only did that change my finances, it changed my career altogether. I started to understand accountability for, I was the guy that was like, man, my coach hates me. That's why I don't play. Or no, they really like that guy. That's why he plays. So I just had no understanding of accountability because I was in such a shell about my parents taking care of me and being close to home that there was so much I didn't understand about accountability. And it started with my finances, and really it started with a teammate, who had been through a lot more difficult circumstances than me, kind of steering me on the right track in terms of my understanding of accountability.
Wow, that's amazing. That's an amazing testament to your teammate as well.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So I guess when you look back, and you probably kind of touched on this as well, but kind of what were your worst financial decisions you made kind of going through college? Was it, going to the club, kind of kicking it, or was it just, spending on whether it's shoes, or kind of touch on that a little bit as well?
So mostly it was trips to the mall. In the fall, you just don't have enough time, and Lawrence doesn't have a mall, so you don't do a lot of that. And there wasn't a lot of online shopping then. So, come springtime, those Saturday after that Friday workout, we go to the mall. We go to the mall, buy the shoes, buy the clothes, go have lunch out there and, spend my money. I'm in Kansas City spending money, got my new, got some Air Force Ones, got the color scheme I wanted, and I'm feeling fresh. And I think that's kind of the luxury of being in college, is that you really, for me at least, I didn't have any actual financial requirements. So it wasn't as if if I made this mistake that I couldn't pay for X or Y or Z. It was more like trial and error. And it would have been a great period to learn some financial literacy because I had the luxury, right? It wasn't as if I didn't have any actual requirements. And it would have been beautiful to know that, maybe I could put a little bit away, or maybe I could do something with this money. Because ultimately, later on as my career progressed, my sister helped me out. She was like, you can, I'll pay your rent. so you can have a little extra money when you get off campus. So now my $400, $700, I did nothing with that money but spend more. And it actually was like the opposite of what I would want, right? I'm thinking, well, I don't have to pay, I get more money and I don't have to pay rent, so I'm gonna be straight. But really, it was just me buying more stuff, and that actually was a bad habit that started to develop because I ended up being someone, post college that did have requirements, but still wanted to be, if I make $10,000 more, that's just another way for me to spend $9,000 more, so I can have, so that's kind of where that habit started, to where anytime I would get a surplus, the surplus would just be spent. It wasn't like I was making that money work for me or finding places to put it.
That's man, that's powerful. I mean, yeah, makes sense. Certainly makes sense. So, and again, you probably touched on this as well, but as you kind of look back on college, as far as some of the things you wish you could have done different, would that be one of the things, just learning a little bit more financial literacy, learning how to, if you do get a surplus, put maybe a portion back? What would you say, kind of, if you were to look back, what you would have done differently?
So ultimately, I think I would have done everything differently. I just want to be clear. I had a luxury. My parents were here. I lived near home. They had finances to take care of me. So I didn't have to live, and a lot of my teammates did. A lot of my teammates, were getting Pell Grants just to send the money home. A lot of my teammates were sending half of their scholarship check home anyway, because they didn't have things at home. So I always want to be clear that, I respect those guys and I have a lot of love for them. And that was not my circumstance. I was someone that had the luxury of having the kind of support that you would expect a college student to have. But with that being said, none of that helped me after college. So a lot of my stuff that happened in college was just more a period of, becoming accountable to myself and learning how to budget, when I have utilities or whatever, when I moved off campus. So I did have some learning in that regard. But what I wished I would have known is how the world actually worked. So, it's one of those things where, college, we are a debt-driven society. And when you are a college student, most of our non-athletic people, people that don't have scholarships, are already exposed to this world by, getting student loans. So they already have this understanding that they've already borrowed money, that they've got to start paying it back on X day, and that they have X interest rate. I had no awareness of that. But what I did know was that I got married the year after. My wife was pregnant. Just a couple months after we got married. So now it was time for me to actually have some responsibility. Football prepared me to deal with all the adversity of that, right? I could take care of my family. I could deal with my wife. I was used to these dynamic situations. I was used to job changes and whatnot. I had no understanding of the financial part of that. And, people really kind of, and I'm going to say people, the way our society is set up, it really feasted on me. It really did, because I needed a car, but I didn't understand interest, and I didn't have credit. I didn't have a credit card in college or high school. Yeah. I didn't take out loans. I didn't have any understanding of interest. I didn't have savings that could prepare me to buy something cheaper. So they just rolled out any car and said, here you go. And they set me up, and I needed a car. I just started working in a different town than I lived. And they rolled out a car and said, here you go. The payments are reasonable. I'm like, cool, I got a car. My payments are reasonable. I have insurance for my family. Like, I'm good. But because I had no understanding of interest and I had no understanding of financial literacy, I realized that they just dropped a bomb on me, and that's and it's one of those things where if I had had some preparation, things would have been a lot different, because I'm going into 13 years since I played football. So I would say 12 years of real time out, learning how to do things. And I am still dealing with that first auto loan that I took. That is something that has plagued me for 12 years. And it was something that they saw as, I'm not saying I was unique. I think that they cannibalized a lot of young people because they don't have financial literacy awareness. And that's what ended up happening. They gave me a loan on a car that did have reasonable payments, but 80% of the payment was going towards interest and 20% was going towards the principal. So I had paid all this money and I owed, $30,000 on a car that was worth $5,000. Talk about being in tears. It was back to, and it wasn't as if I learned through, I looked at the finances and broke it down. What happened was I'm a claims adjuster, and I got into auto claims. and I started to learn about total loss values. And I started to see how earth shattering it was for people to have a totaled car that they owed $20,000 on that was worth $4,000. So I said, wow, that stinks. And I'm like, wait a minute, what about my car? And I'm like, oh no. And that was what I was learned, like, oh wow. Like I'm somebody that's, one of my football things that I learned was integrity. I learned about integrity, and I learned about how important integrity was. And I felt like I had been violated. I felt like I had been hustled into this car, right? And I'm thinking, I owe all this money on a car that is worth nothing. And how do I get out of that? It is taking me 10 years to get out of that. So that's what would be my hope, that financial literacy carries beyond this period of where you have a certain amount of protection, right? Football awards you a certain amount of protection because of your scholarship check and because of the meals that they provide for you. And not everyone, but in my case, it definitely was. But I wish that there would have been some preparation so that I did not bury myself once I was done.
That's amazing. And again, unfortunately, it's not that uncommon because that does happen. These guys graduate. I was one of them as well. You get into a situation where you got a car, you have to pay the payments, right out of college. And I was one of those guys. I went up on campus. I don't know if it was the same with you, but on Wesco Beach, you can go up there, you can get you a little T-shirt, you get a pack of Skittles, and you just fill out that little application and get a credit card, a couple of weeks later. And so that happened to me. I had 4 or 5 credit cards, didn't understand it, didn't understand the interest, didn't understand if you just make the minimum payment, you're basically done for years and years. You're making the same payment on that, whatever that item is that you bought. So you get out of school and then it just kind of snowballs until you either figure it out or you just continue that horrible path. So definitely a powerful testament there. So next question was how has the habits that you formed in college affected life after college? And again, it sounds like earlier you kind of touched on this as far as just trial and error. It sounds like trial and error really benefits you. Would you say that's kind of how your habits have formed in college?
Absolutely. I think that my big issue was seeing my available money as what I'm allowed to spend, as opposed to seeing my money as this currency, this built up bank. I have this bank of money and I need to do X, Y, Z. And this is what I could do with the rest is up to me. I could make a smart investment. I could put this into savings, all that. So I didn't have any awareness of that. I saw money as I have $400 for a month for a scholarship check, so I can spend $400. And then when I moved off campus, I'm like, I have $700 for a scholarship. I can spend $700. So when I got out of college, when I was providing for my family, I thought the same way. I thought, well, I'm making my first job, I was making $1,200 a check, and every 2 weeks, and I think my rent was $800, and my bills were something or other. So I was probably around a surplus of maybe $500 for my first check, and then a surplus of more like $700 for my second check. So I saw that $1,200 as my amount of money to spend on things. It could be buying something for my wife or buying something for my son, and that was just a horrible way to look at things. So what happens is you end up, something happens that's a surprise. You need a car, or you need to pay for your tags at the end of the year, something I had never done, or whatever the case may be. Now that I don't have a surplus now because I spent it all, and I don't have any savings because I spent it all. And what happens is you get into that habit, and that's what you start doing. You get to your life and you start thinking, well, I'm about to get a raise. I made 30. I think my first job was 34,000. So I'm like, I'm about to get a raise to 36,000. That means I got an extra $120 a month to spend on things. And so that's what happens. And what ends up happening is, like you said, so now I've made that, I've spent that too much money there. But now my wife's pregnant. I have to buy stuff for her, for our family, for our baby. So now I have to go into credit to buy those things. And I do that. But I'm bad with credit, so I keep spending on that card. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take out a loan to pay off that credit card. I'm going to use the extra. And then it ends up just compounding over and over again. So my understanding of freedom becomes my attachment to interest payments, and I'm thinking that I have this freedom to, and it's kind of deceptive, right? Because you're on your own for the first time. You go to Kansas City, they give you a job and they say, well, you get 3 weeks off, we give you insurance. You know, you can your salary, you can come in this time. I'm like, man, I'm living the life. You know, my little 34,000. I got interest. I got payments. I'm good. And I wasn't good. And as I learned through this trial and error thing is that, okay, well, this is not how you treat money. This is, and you've compounded so much interest from, you've taken out interest to pay for interest. So now you're tied up in a thing where now my bill calculation to my surplus is paying a loan payment in the first half of the month and then paying a credit card payment in the second half of the month. So that was my biggest issue. And the thing that I wish I would have had an understanding was that, trying to keep an appearance of something is not as important as living to your dreams, or living to using your money to help you reach whatever you want to reach, as opposed to, I played in the NFL for a little bit. I got a little bit of money there. I got a little bit of money here. I'm good. And I want it to look like I'm good as opposed to actually living well, and I think that was a big issue.
That's, some good points. So I guess we're coming towards the end here. So some of the pitfalls that you hope that your story would essentially prevent for some of the young student athletes out there. And again, you touched on a lot. But if you can just kind of dive into that, if you could look at a young BMAC, like, hey, you should do this, or just a young, whoever's watching this as a young student athlete, what would the advice be that you would give them?
I would say get a good understanding of Americans' attachment to debt. And I know that's a very super general statement, but I think that in America, we have an attachment to appearances, and those appearances cost. And the cost of $2,000 for a credit card so that I can buy some Jordans does not seem like that big of a deal. But when you don't have credit, they're going to give you an interest rate that's like, that's more, that is higher than the years you've been on this earth. So I'm a 22-year-old with a 30% interest rate, so, and it's one of those things where it's fine, right? The appearance of it is I got the thing that I wanted, and it did not cost me all of my upfront money. So now I look like I want to look. I have the appearance that I want to have, and I'm making some small insignificant payment to have it. So this is not a big deal. But what we don't understand is that it doesn't become a big deal until it does, right? So it doesn't become an issue until you want more money and you have no access to it. So you go and you get credit out of necessity. So it's like credit should be a luxury. Credit should not be a necessity. And I know that's not a reality for every American. And like I said, I didn't grow up. I was a middle class, working class family. It wasn't like I came from the dirt. But what happens is you don't have an understanding of credit as a tool as opposed to credit out of necessity. And I think that none of the things that I felt like I needed, I really needed. You know what I mean? And if there were things that I really needed, there were more ways to get to it than I considered. So the easiest way was to just take a credit card out or take a bad car payment loan. And as opposed to working extra, saving extra, buying a $3,500 car to get you from A to B until you have enough wealth to buy the car that you actually want. Because I'm telling you, you'll go here and they'll give you credit and they'll never give you the car you want. And it's just not, it just conditions you to expect to get what they give you. And that is not how this world works. You should get what you want. And you can get what you want by being like that, like being with these financial people, to have them teach you that there are ways to get this done, and you should live the life you want. You should not live the life that they give you. And I think that's what lack of financial literacy and my overinvestment in bad debt taught me, is that my life is not about the things that they give me. My life's about the things that I want. And taking care of my money could help me get there.
Powerful stuff. Well, I guess we're coming to the end here. I was going to say, so I know you said when I was reading off your bio, you signed the St. Louis Rams. So at that time, was that anything that, were you able to gain any monetary value from that? Did they pay your amount? And if so, was that amount more than what you typically would have? And how did you deal with that as far as any type of monies that you received from, the time that you spent with the Rams?
So I was naive about that. And I'll make a comment about that too. That's not necessarily due to financial literacy, but I think playing in the NFL, there's this understanding that, playing in college, and I was someone that was always hardworking. And my understanding was if I did the right things, then people would care. Like I'm good, so people are going to care about me. People are going to want me on their team. I played in the Shrine Bowl, and Todd McShay listed me as a top 5 prospect out of the Shrine Bowl. I talked to all these NFL teams. It was good, right? I went to Pittsburgh and Houston. Someone's gonna draft you. I said in Mike Tomlin's office, he's like, you're a fullback, you're a tailback, you can cover kicks, you'll get drafted. Gary Kubiak said the same thing. I'm like, cool, I'm gonna get drafted. I'm gonna play special teams. This is normal. So I didn't get drafted. So it comes down to free agency, and I picked the Rams because they offered players 1-year contracts. So the next contract you would be for the next veterans minimum. So you would basically tier up $100,000 in your second season. And I was so certain that I would make it because I was hardworking and I was good. And that is not how the NFL works. That's not how the NFL works at all. So I signed with the Rams, and because they give you 1-year contracts, they give you smaller signing bonuses because the expectation is you make the team. The next contract we give you will be a significant raise, even if we give you the minimum. So I took a smaller signing bonus. I didn't have a lot of money up front, and I didn't really get paid. You don't really get paid anything but stipends till you get to the season anyway. And I had a lot of, meal money and such. But what I would say about that is that your NFL career is not about how good you are. And your NFL career is not about deserving anything. Your NFL career is about hiring a good agent that knows teams and can get you in the door, because a lot of the stuff that make you good and that worked for you in high school and college don't work for you because there's a whole understanding of networking and to be where you need to be at the perfect time. There's a lot of elements that I didn't consider. So my advice would be, when it comes to pro football, rely on experts and treat it like a business. You got to network, and you got to pick the right people, and you got to do the right stuff, because being good enough isn't good enough.
Amazing. Amazing. All right. Well, man, we're coming to, like I said, the end. I guess the very last thing is just if you can kind of tell the guys what you're currently doing now, after college, now that, as we sit here. I know you said you're doing some work for KU, and what's good with you?
So I am a claims adjuster for entertainment industry. So I do a lot of general liability claims like slip and falls or ride malfunctions. It's a super easy job, and it's insurance. In the Kansas City area, at least, there's a ton of claims-related jobs, and they're really easy, especially given our circumstances. Coming from environments that change a lot, position coaches, and all these different things you deal with as a football player, all that happens in a claims operation. So I've been doing well. It's an easy job, and I've been doing it since 2010. So I'm in my 10th year. So I'm paid well, and it's really easy. Radio-wise, I got an opportunity to be a sideline adjuster with the University of Kansas for football. So I'm, making 2 or 3 comments a series. Super fun. I basically am a guy with a microphone getting paid to watch football. So, you can't beat that.
You can't beat that. That's the American dream.
No, you cannot beat that at all. So it's something that, I would recommend if you're looking for a career and you need something that, even if it's in the short term, I would say insurance in the Kansas City area is a really good choice, because adjusting is really easy. It's a good start to get your corporate feet wet. Not something that maybe you do forever, but something that definitely gets you off to a good start.
Cool. Well, man, I appreciate it again. I appreciate just the honesty and just the rawness of it.
All right, Pat, I appreciate you.
Yeah, see you on the sidelines.
All right, thanks for having me.
Yep. Take care.